What if I told you that one accidental mistake changed human history forever? It wasn't fire. It wasn't the wheel. It all started with a few forgotten pieces of fruit, one strange smell, and one curious sip. And suddenly, humans had discovered something they had never experienced before. But this wasn't just a drink. It would change civilizations forever. To understand the answer, we have to travel millions of years into the past. Long before cities, roads, or kingdoms existed, humans wandered the earth as hunters and gatherers. Back then, survival was the only goal. Every single day was a search for food and water. Wild fruit was one of nature's greatest gifts, growing freely across forests and valleys. Some fruit was eaten immediately, while other pieces were simply forgotten on the ground. As the days quietly passed, something invisible began transforming those forgotten fruits. Our ancestors had no idea they were standing on the edge of one of history's greatest discoveries. But what exactly was changing those ordinary pieces of fruit? The answer had been hiding all around them the entire time. It all began with tiny living organisms that no human had ever seen. These microscopic organisms are called yeast. As soon as yeast reached the fruit, it immediately began feeding on its natural sugars. While eating those sugars, the yeast released tiny bubbles and created alcohol completely by accident. Outside, the fruit looked almost the same, but inside, an incredible transformation was taking place. Humans weren't even the first to discover this strange phenomenon. Even today, elephants sometimes eat naturally fermented fruit and become surprisingly clumsy. Some become dizzy, and others simply sit down looking completely confused. Monkeys have also been seen eating fermented fruit before swinging from tree to tree with far less balance than usual. Even birds can lose their sense of direction after eating too much fermented fruit. In forests around the world, fallen fruit has been quietly fermenting for millions of years, giving countless wild animals the same unexpected experience. Squirrels, birds, elephants, monkeys, none of them understood what was happening. They simply enjoyed the fruit and moved on with their lives. But humans were different. They didn't simply forget the strange experience. They started wondering why it had happened. Before long, they noticed a curious pattern. The strangest fruit was always the fruit that had been lying beneath the trees for several days. The longer it stayed on the ground, the more it seemed to change. During the day, the sun warmed it. At night, the air cooled it down. Day after day, nature quietly continued its invisible work. Inside the fruit, yeast kept turning natural sugars into alcohol. Even though humans couldn't understand the process, they could clearly see the results. Soon, they began searching for these unusual fruits on purpose. Later, they even started leaving fruit on the ground longer, just to see if the strange effect would happen again. And every single time, it worked. A lucky accident was slowly becoming valuable knowledge. People were no longer relying on chance. They were observing, comparing, remembering. That was how humanity's very first knowledge began to grow. There were no books, no science, not even writing, but curiosity kept pushing people to ask one more question. And before long, they made another incredible discovery. They realized they didn't have to wait for nature anymore. They could learn to create the process themselves. For generations, people continued experimenting. They tried different fruits, different plants, different containers. Sometimes they failed. Sometimes they accidentally created something even better. Little by little, they discovered that crushed fruit fermented faster than whole fruit. Adding water changed the flavor. Keeping it covered protected the mixture from dirt and insects. Without realizing it, they were becoming the world's very first brewers. No one understood chemistry. No one knew what yeast really was. Yet simple observation was teaching them lessons that would be passed down for thousands of years. Parents showed their children. Children taught the next generation. What had started as a lucky accident slowly became a tradition. And that tradition would soon grow into something much bigger than anyone could have imagined. The first real alcoholic drinks were about to change human history forever. For example, let's take grapes. People discovered that if they crushed grapes and left the juice to ferment, it slowly turned into wine, one of the world's oldest alcoholic drinks. They began storing wine in large containers and wooden barrels so it could age over time. As it matured, the flavor became richer and smoother. When guests arrived, people prepared large feasts. Musicians played, food was served, and wine was poured into cups for everyone to enjoy. Kings, warriors, merchants, and ordinary people all drank it, although children did not. The alcohol made people feel relaxed, happier, and sometimes completely drunk. Wine became so valuable that it was often traded for fruits, vegetables, livestock, and many other goods. In some places, it was even used as payment for work. As winemaking improved, people carefully wrote down their recipes so the knowledge would never be lost and future generations could continue making it. As civilizations grew and governments became stronger, many places introduced laws to regulate or restrict alcohol trading. Not everyone agreed with these rules, and many people were disappointed. However, governments believed these laws would strengthen the economy because alcohol had become one of the most valuable products people wanted. Demand for alcohol continued to grow. It spread across kingdoms, continents, and eventually around the entire world. Many people argued about these new laws and struggled to accept them. But over time, they adapted, and alcohol remained an important part of celebrations and everyday life. Today, alcoholic drinks can be found in almost every country on Earth. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.